Peace, y'all, and welcome to Gather and Heal, the podcast. My name is Vanessa Sujey, and I am your holistic host. Basically, we're going to have lots of combos. Sometimes it'll be just me, and sometimes we'll have some guests. No matter what the topic is, though, I'm going to make sure that it connects right back to your emotional wellness and healing journey. What's up, y'all? It's Vanessa Suhe, your holistic host, and I am back with another dope ass guest. And I can't even tell you, when I was looking at Lee's website, I just mentioned it to him too. Wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience that I am really amped up to bring this discussion about what you ask. Don't worry, we'll get there. We'll get there. But before we do, I'm gonna have Lee go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us, who are your people? What are the things that you enjoy doing for fun? And then, of course, tell us a little bit about yourself professionally. And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, my name's Lee, Coach Lee. I help people make friendships. And who are my people? Well, I belong to a couple of different tribes. I'm a Black person. I'm also a trans man, so I belong to the queer community as well. And some of the things I like to do for fun is playing board games. And oh man, that question kind of threw me off. It triggered me just a little bit because
Oh.
that used to be, we're getting into it in this episode, I'm sure, but that used to be one of the hardest questions that I could answer. Man,
Mm.
what is it that I get myself thrown off? But seriously, and seriously, I like board games and I like escape rooms and puzzles and things like that. Those are some of my favorite things to do.
Escape rooms. Have you successfully escaped one?
Yes, I have. I've escaped all of them. I mean, I can tell you the craziest escape room I went to is the most exciting with some people that I kind of knew. I didn't really know that well, but we were all like into this. We were like, we're gonna win this. And what they did, there were four of us to all total. They blindfolded us, upset. They blindfolded us and marched us into the room, marched us behind another door into the room, and then they handcuffed us. They
Oh,
handcuffed
come
us to
again?
the floor. Yeah, I know, right? And they
Oh,
handcuffed us to the floor. Like there was a little, it was like a chain that just kind of locked on the floor.
yeah.
And they turned the lights out. And essentially they were like, all right, start. And I was like, that was the best thing I've ever. We got out. It was the key was right there. They wasn't gonna have us struggling and stuff. We could take our stuff off and it was just for the dramatics. But it was pretty exciting. It was fun.
What?
I,
That's dope.
yeah, that was crazy, right? Dude, so many
That's good.
people.
That's creative. That's interesting. I'll say that. I've done two escape rooms and have
Mhm.
not been able to escape. I'm like, listen, I can't hang out with y'all no more because
Right.
this doesn't work. When the apocalypse comes, this isn't gonna work. Y'all not gonna help me. I need to find you. Like, yo, Lee, where you at?
Exactly. I'm like, "I'm serious. Come on, you gotta look at these clues. Let's get it together."
Oh
You
my
know? So
goodness. That makes sense though, right? Like I feel like puzzles and board games and escape rooms really all connect.
They all give me that challenge, that sense of you gotta discover something here.
Mm,
And that's kind of, right in the wheelhouse of what you do as a holistic coach and what I do as a friendship coach. It's like, let's see what we have to discover here.
that's dope. That's
Mm.
really dope. So tell us, Noble, first time I have ever heard someone call themselves a friendship coach. What does that mean? How do you explain that to people?
Well, I hope people make lasting friendships. Well, it doesn't sound much much more clear, does it? But at the
But I'm
at
still confused.
yeah, but so then the how is the process. It's like I've always been told that I need to go out and I just need to make friends. And I know I
Mm,
need to make friends, but I don't know how to do that. Okay, well, I used to go to bars and places that I thought that's where you meet people, especially after college and outside of the job workforce and stuff where people are already siloed and they already have their places that they need to be in routines on a daily basis. So what do you
mm.
do, or Lee? What does Lee do as a single man who's trans and who doesn't have a family, doesn't have any strong connections or anything. What do I do? So I just kept searching in different places and I kept finding things that I didn't want to find. Like I couldn't make connections with people. And the reason why I couldn't make connections with people is because I didn't have any boundaries. And
Mm,
that is what I help people discover. I help people discover their boundaries. And Vanessa, I don't want to say that boundaries are what I discovered, though. I mean, in my 20s and 30s, when I started to hear about boundaries, I heard people say there are limits on what other people can do.
mm,
You say no, that's setting a boundary. And I've always used them like that. But that's not what boundaries are. So as a friendship coach, I help people discover what the boundaries are for themselves. Boundaries, in my humble opinion, and I'm on a mission to help people look at them differently. Boundaries are meant to define who you are, what you want in life, and how you're going to get that. And not only understanding that for yourself, but being able to communicate that clearly to another person. I
mm,
help people understand that concept. And soon as they understand that concept, soon as they're able to apply it, they can make connections with other people. So I say,
mm.
if you're friendless, you're having difficulty making friends, here's all the things that's going to help you do it.
Dope.
Yeah.
Ooh, and that's a beautiful segue right into our topic for today, right? So
Mhm.
I know there are a lot of things that you can speak on and that you've got experience with, right? That's why I started with wealth of information. Um, but the one that really stood out to me was around boundaries. And
Mm,
you're right. There are so many different ways that people define boundaries. There are so many different ways that people exercise them, identify them, or maybe don't even identify them, right?
mhm.
They're just scrolling along on social media and it's like, "Oh, social media told me I should have a boundary around this and I don't. Okay, off I go and I'm just going to copy paste and I'm going to do the same thing."
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing you say is that that doesn't always work, which is thoroughly in alignment with how I show up in this world and how I also encourage people to show up, which is you can't copy paste, right? You have to figure out and
Mm.
see what lands well with you within your mind, your body, and your emotions. So that way your behaviors can align and you're also surrounding yourself with the people that you want to be around, with the friends, building those friendships.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, that's exactly what I mean when I say
Mm,
that, when I'm creating these boundaries, because when I was discovering boundaries or that was a buzzword, I was the one on social media like, "Oh, this is what a boundary is. I think you say no to people." But really, boundaries are happy accidents. They're accidents. They're things that they happen to you. And let me explain this better. They're
I like that though. It's
experiences.
catchy.
The
Happy
happy
accidents.
accidents, they're happy accidents. So what you do is you go out in the world and you have an experience, and you
Mhm.
have an emotional response to that experience. Boom. Ah! You have an emotional response. And your body and your brain, they log that experience. And you do something. You behave in some kind of way. The thing is that our boundaries are unconsciously defined. And we
Mm,
keep running around in the world, running into a boundary, behaving some kind of way, not even realizing it. And once you start realizing what you like and what you don't like, things that hurt you, things that help you, and recognize your response to them, you can be conscious about changing those responses to it. You
mm,
can really say, like, well, I'm going to let life happen to me and I'm going to set a boundary, or I'm going to realize that this is what I want and I will set this boundary based on what I want.
mm.
So that's what really makes the connection with people, and that's what it really means for me. And I think based on what you're saying is to have boundaries is being more thoughtful about how you're moving through the world, being more thoughtful about how things impact you and how you behave, how you respond to them.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I like how you were talking about our bodies and our brain. They're taking stock, they're paying attention, they're
Mm,
listening to all of these things and holding on to the memories in different ways. And that's a huge part of what we do in Gather and Heal is really increase our understanding and our awareness of when something like this happens, how does my body respond or where does my body hold it?
mm,
Because we hold a whole lot in our heads, right? A lot of my clients are very intellectual people and they want to process it. Well, I think this and then that. And I'm like, yeah, That's nice. But tell me, where did you feel it in your body? What was your behavioral response? Did you, like, did you jump back? Did you cover your face? Or did your body like relax and was it open and comfortable? Right? Because in order to get to the space where people can identify their boundaries, we got to back up and be able to identify, well, how did I respond in said moment during those happy accidents? Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I've snapped to that. That is that
Thank
is that is so real. And,
you.
to that point about feeling it in your body, I didn't realize that that was a real truth. Because I used to walk around with it looked like my shoulders were shrugged because I was just carrying all of it here, and it was just normal and natural for me to feel this way until I
Mm,
started to pay attention to what was going on, what's stressing me out, and breathe, relax your shoulders, and I'm like, "I can't relax your
mm,
shoulders. I cannot," until I
mhm,
started to deal with whatever was going on in my life to help me because, wow, it is really part of the it's a mind and body experience. It's all
mhm,
one.
mhm. It's so funny to have to like talk about it and say them separately, but they are all one,
Mhm.
but we still have to give them their own space, right? Like, so it's this. I usually like to say to people, we got to zoom in and we got to zoom out while when we're looking at things and how we're, creating our path forward or assessing what might have happened in the past.
I like that. Zoom in and zoom out.
Mhm,
Yeah, for sure. We gotta look at what we're doing and the impact as well. And, to your point, I'd like to say that, part of setting boundaries is recognizing, what you were experiencing, of course,
mm,
but one thing that would really make it helpful, what has helped me a whole lot was to help categorize it, was to categorize these boundaries. And so I've come up with three categories for them. They're your needs, negotiables, and your nevers. And the way you want to look at your boundaries is that there are specific actions in your environment that have happened or that you've done or that someone else has done. And that's what you're emotionally responding to. So when you have your needs, they are specific actions and behaviors in your environment or in your experience that you've witnessed and you desire to keep having them again. That's it. And then your negotiables are ones that don't have a huge impact on you. They're not emotionally driven one way or the other. They're experiences that you log anyway, but you're like, well, it's not a make or break, especially in friendships. It's not a make or break about this. And then your nevers, your specific actions and behaviors that you never want to have in your life. And you know that.
mhm,
And part of this I say specific actions and behaviors because you want to be able to not get yourself confused with how intense your emotion is in the situation. Because if you're talking about a specific action and behavior that has happened and you run into something that's similar to it, not specifically, but
mhm,
similar to it, and you have an emotional response to it, you get to be able to look back and say, was it that? Or was it this? Where's that
mm,
emotion coming from? You get something to analyze. You get something to look at. And furthermore, with specific actions and behaviors, you can share that with another person so that they know what your needs are. They know what your nevers are. Because, man, if you don't know, how is anybody else going to connect with you?
right.
Yeah.
And how are they going to connect with you in the ways that are mutually beneficial, right?
Mm,
And said friendship for you as an individual, but then also for them. And that
absolutely.
that's huge. But what we're also talking about too, without saying it, is it's the awareness and it's the identification of the boundaries and it's the communication piece,
Hmm.
right? And I know that's sometimes where clients and people get a little squirmy because it's like, well, how do I say no, I don't want to do this, or no, they can't do this anymore because this is how my friends have always known me. I've always done this. So how can I make this change now? And I'm like, we gonna figure it out because this change needs to happen. It's not working for you anymore.
I know, right? And I started to laugh at that because I just got transported back into my old friendships, and I'm like, man, I was such a liar. I
Mm,
can say that now after I healed, but I can tell you I
mm,
was such a liar because I didn't wanna hurt anybody's feelings, and they've always and it was just like, "Hey, I don't have a boundary here anymore." I mean, I didn't like that you did that, but, I'm not, yeah, it's okay. It's stuff like that. I would do that, and I run into after I've done some healing and I run into people who do that, and I feel very uncomfortable
mm,
because I think that they're being dishonest with me, and I don't think I could trust them. And I thought, man, I show up like that. I showed up like that when I don't set a boundary. I show up
mm.
like I'm not trustworthy because I wasn't. I didn't trust my friends that I could share the truth with them. And that's what it comes down to. Like you to your point when you were saying that um it's for the best of your friends too. Your friends want that too. If I'm a friend to somebody, I want them to tell me the truth because I want to know how to help them. I don't want to
Right,
do some bullshit that they don't want me to do. Don't waste
mhm,
my time and energy. I love you and I want to be friends. I want
mhm.
to connect with you. I want to see you grow. I want to support you. Tell me what I can do.
Yes.
Tell me what I can do.
Mhm.
D-
And I think that sometimes people get caught in the how do I say this? And oh my goodness, and we're too much within ourselves that we
Mhm.
forget that for good friends, right? They do love us and they do want to hear what's happening for us and what needs to change and so on and so forth. And
Mm.
if there's a friend in quotation marks, if you're only
Yep.
listening, that doesn't like that, then that quote friend can go ahead and make their exit. And you can make room for people who do love you and who
Mhm.
do want to hear your truth.
Absolutely, absolutely. Vanessa, it reminds me of the story of when I was like just coming out as transitioning. So, I mean, it's been a couple of years, and I'm in Chicago where I am now, and I no one knew me before my transition. So I transitioned as soon as I landed in Chicago, and I was looking to make some friends, and I tried the bar scenes and stuff that I've tried before, and I was in therapy, and they said, "Well, try going out with a positive attitude and going out to think that you're going to meet friends. Have that affirmation going on." And I did. I went out to a comedy club and I thought, well, I'm going to meet somebody. I meet a guy. We're going to chat and I'm going to make a friend. And sure enough, I started having a conversation with him, kind of leaned it towards trans, LGBT stuff, queer stuff. And he has mentioned that he has never seen a trans person before, doesn't understand the process, has no idea why anyone would do that. And I thought, you know what? I got you. I'm going to reveal my truth. I'm going to be open, honest, and authentic to you.
Mm,
And he just blanked. His face froze. He stopped
mm,
talking and he walked away.
mm,
And I was like, "Ow, ow." I mean,
mhm.
I had people to help me process that, but when I look back at it, he didn't know what to say, right? He was just stunned. He didn't know what to say. That's absolutely fine. It devastated me at the time, but I realized that I don't want to spend my energy and time chasing him down, telling him why I'm such a great person, telling him why talking about the whole history of transgender people and why transgender people are okay and whatever fears or whatever issues or whatever things that he was having with me being trans, maybe just not liking that, whatever it was. I don't want to spend the energy to go chase him down and tell him that he should be my friend. And furthermore, he doesn't want that. So it
Right.
was very, very, very quick and easy for me to know that he's not
Mhm,
part of my tribe at this time. Maybe
mhm.
he'll do his own healing and his own growth, and we'll run into each other again and we can have a conversation. But at that time, chasing him down would have served neither of us.
Yeah.
And recognizing that, you know, this is how you feel and honoring that and realizing that you may have something to do to heal. I had to go heal. I had to go heal and probably so did they in some way. I don't know what's going on with him, but to your point though, I share that story with you because people may struggle to say exactly what they want, but you don't have any control over the other person and how they're going to behave and how they're going to react. That guy, he didn't try. He didn't try to save my feelings at all. He was like self preservation All
Mhm.
boundaries, yes for me, yes for him. I mean, he was like, all yes, whatever I'm feeling right now, I need to honor it. I'm out. Done.
Mhm.
Didn't try to take care of me. And guess what? I'm okay. I'm all
One
right.
more time. Lee, you are
I'm all
okay.
right. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I learned from that experience.
Mhm.
Yeah, I learned from that experience. So if you're struggling, do the best you can to be honorable, honor with yourself. You can't take care of
Exactly.
what you can't take care of how they're feeling, but you can honor yourself and that's it.
Mhm. And sometimes, when I have conversations around with clients, friends, family, whoever it might be, when they meet someone and really early on, the person makes their exit, I'm like, all right, good, bye. Right. And I also recognize that being that person in that moment, that's really fucking hard. Right. Um,
Mhm.
but you
I was gonna
preserved your energy and all of your greatness.
I was gonna say which person in that moment, the one who makes the exit or the one who gets rejected? Because
You,
because I 'cause
go
I
ahead.
'cause honestly, Vanessa, I feel like, well, that dude, he didn't say anything. Like, because I guess, people pleasing and, feeling inadequate or
Mm,
whatever my issues were, I'd have been like, "Hey, hey, 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 wait." If he had said anything else to me, I'd have been, like, trying to grab onto him. I'd have
mhm.
been saying like, "Hey, if you try to take care of my feelings, well, let me explain stuff to you."
Yeah.
And I think it takes a lot of courage and decisiveness to know that this isn't it for me and I'm done. I don't know any explanation. I'm done.
Mhm.
And it's kind of hard to do that too.
Absolutely. You and you highlighted it too while you were sharing is that on both ends, you the two of you exercised your own boundaries, right? That person made their exit, okay. But you also said, I'm going to show up authentically myself and I'm going to share this, right?
Hmm.
That was your boundary. You set an internal boundary that said, I'm going to stop lying to friends.
Yes.
And you honored it, right? So, though the boundaries were different, y'all each had them and honored them in your own way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to your point, I can share another thing, another quick story about how
Mm,
not honoring that boundary and authenticity really hurt my friendships. And so I'm trans, and it's difficult to date as it is, but like dating as a trans person and connecting with people is a little difficult too. It's a little more
mhm,
difficult. It just adds another layer of difficulty. And I wanted to date someone, and I had a friend that I would often talk about things with, but I didn't know I was trans. And so I wanted to date this person, and I was unsure about how things would go because I actually booked a date with them, and I wasn't sure about how things would go,
mhm.
and I wanted to talk to somebody about it, but I couldn't talk to them about it because they didn't
Mm,
know what the problem was. I could
right.
tell them little it beats like pieces of the story, like, "Oh, yeah, I feel kind of unsure about how the date's gonna go," and he would be like, "Why?" "Well, I don't know what to say," but that's not true. Well,
Mm,
it is true, I don't know what to say, but how do I talk about being trans and all that stuff?
yeah.
What do I do? And I'm nervous about that. I couldn't share that with him, and so I still felt alone.
Mhm,
I felt alone.
mhm. And what
Yeah.
did you do with that? How did you navigate through that?
Well, um, for the date, I ended up going on the date and just feeling like, this was a mess. It didn't work out. I couldn't be
Mhm,
honest and open with them either. And so for the friendship, I went back and I told him eventually, like some months after, like, hey, I'm trans. And they were like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know. Of course you didn't know. Of course you
I'm
didn't know.
telling you.
I'm telling you now, I'm telling you now. But it was a whole shock. It was a whole shock, and I feel
Mm,
like also that, man, here I am being a liar again. Like,
mm,
you thought it was one thing, and I'm completely different, and I'm like, I'm feeling like that my own way and stuff, and
mhm,
I realized that they also didn't know how to support that and hear the idea of me being trans, they didn't know how to support it. They're still there. We can still talk about all the things we used to talk about, but that one specific thing that was very important to me was something
Mhm.
that they couldn't handle, or I wouldn't say that they were crass or trying to be hurtful or anything, but they just didn't know how to comfort me in that situation. And I realized that, oops, I put all my chips or all my eggs in this basket and this friendship, and feeling like we have so much more in common. We have so much in common, but we don't have this one important connection that I need to feel
Mhm.
authentic with them. So our friendship kind of fizzled out. And so back to the boundaries, I make sure to say that that is my truth, and I
Mm.
have to share that as soon as possible with people that I'm thinking gonna be connected and close with.
Mhm.
Yeah, because otherwise I can't, I'll feel lonely. I won't be able to talk about things that pertain to that very important piece of who I am, and I need
Mhm.
that. Everybody needs that.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that story because that really does highlight the cost, the very high expense
Mm,
of flexing on our own boundaries when they are one of our we should never flex on this boundary, right?
right, right.
And its impact, its cost for us, right? And I don't, people don't always see that. And I will pose that question. I would say to people, well, now that this has happened, how are you navigating it? And what was the cost? And then, people can say, oh, these things, these things, these things. But the biggest cost is that you flexed on a boundary that does not land okay with you to have flexed on, right? It was not one of
Right,
your negotiables.
right, right. It definitely wasn't, and having an experience and reflecting on it is what made me realize that I thought I was doing something different, like my past and my history. I thought I was doing something different by sharing, something with people,
Hmm.
like talking about my history a little bit with people or something. But it's these really deep, important things that define who I am. Those are the things that I really need to share that would make a really genuine connection with other people. Yeah. So I can't ever lose that.
Mm,
I can't ever lose that, because at the end of the day, it feels just the same as having no one around to talk to. Yeah, it
right.
sounds just the same.
Hmm. And it feels the same. Feels
Yes.
lonely. Can feel isolating when even though you might be in a room surrounded by people and you can't have important conversations that are dear to you or you can't show
Mm,
up genuinely yourself. That's really fucking lonely.
yeah.
And that's why it's so important for me. And I'm glad that this is also a part of your calling and your mission that says, who am I? What do I love? What do I believe? What am I passionate about? And how can I make those connections with other people who love those same things or things that are similar and are passionate about the same or similar things?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And if I could share a couple of, tips on how I got closer to finding those people,
Yes.
in addition to the boundaries, um,
Hmm.
I didn't really know what I wanted, what was important about me, or doing some self-reflection, and I've come up with 3 things that you can help find the kind of people that you're looking for, or I think we're looking for ourselves out there, so people who are like you. So I I focus on the history, your hobbies, and your habits. So your history is, basically where you're from physically or emotionally. Like, I'm from Ohio. Physically, I can connect with somebody who's from Ohio. We could talk about stuff, and especially if we're out of state, whatever. And
Sure.
then your hobbies, things that you like to do that bring you joy, things that bring you joy
Mhm.
on a regular basis. And then your habits, things that sustain you or that you do on a regular basis. And especially if it's something that's odd and unique. I mean, you want to connect with people who do that, because obviously it's really important to you. But the caveat with all of these is that they must bring you joy. You want to share things that bring you joy, because
Mm.
when you meet people and you want to talk to them. You want to talk about things that bring you joy, not just things that are familiar, but things that bring you joy. Mm.
That's huge, right? Because I could be from a particular place and hate it. Absolutely have had horrible experiences or something,
Yes.
right? So yeah, we could connect on it, but I don't want to
I don't
keep
talk
meeting
about it.
up with you if we're going to
Yeah.
talk about it all the time. No, thank
Yep.
you. Hard pass. I love that. I really do. And I've been jotting down
Awesome.
some of your tips and tricks because they are just they're
Thank
on
you.
point. I love that so much. Um, so we talked about quite a bit, right?
Mm.
Friendships, what is a friendship coach, boundaries. And I always like to ask though, did I miss anything? Is there anything else that you want to share that maybe I didn't um, ask you?
No, I don't think we missed anything, but I would like to add something to it.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say that, um, conversation is made when we talk about things. Yes. But connection is made when we start talking about how we feel about those things.
Mm,
So remember that feeling.
the
Remember the feeling.
feeling.
The feeling. Yeah.
And that's where our self-awareness comes back in and makes it so important, right? Because yes, the conversation, things we like, that's this mind piece,
Hmm.
right? But how did I feel when we had this conversation? That's within our body. Those
Yes.
emotions are within our body. That energy is felt here.
Hmm.
um I've always known that even before actually being able to label it. And because I could say, oh yeah, I remember you. We talked about these things, and this is how I felt, and we were laughing, and so on and so forth. But I'm sorry, I forget your name, right? Like instances like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, because the name gets stored in my mind, but our conversation and how we connected and so on and so forth is stored elsewhere. And that's all the good stuff that I remember.
Right on, right on.
Yep. So Lee, tell us, how can people find you? How can they connect with you? And of course, I'll have all of those deets in our show notes, but tell us.
Yes, so you can find me at patternsofpossibility.com. I have a 30-day friendship challenge where I help you like understand these boundaries and help you make yourself a friend. Go out there and find yourself in the right place to meet the right people who want to have the right kind of conversations with you. So you can find that at patternsofpossibility.com. And you can find me at Patterns of Possibility on all social media. I'm out there on just about everyone.
That's awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for coming through today and dropping so many gems. I mean, you had me out here taking notes. I'm like, whoa,
This is
how we
wild.
going to incorporate this? I love it so much. I love genuine conversations. So
Yeah, I
I
had such a
deeply
wonderful time.
appreciate you. Yes.
Uh,
And so for everybody listening, y'all, don't be greedy. Share with the homies. You know where to find us on podcast platforms and on YouTube if you'd like to see us as we're chatting. And Instagram is where we're most active, gather.heal. Don't hesitate to send us a DM or send us an email. But until the next time, I hope y'all have nothing short of a beautiful fucking day. Peace.